Okay, so we're talking about different aspects of God, and this one, I'd never given it a whole ton of thought, but then I had to tell someone about it, so I was like, oh, I should think about that. And this attribute of God is the fact that he's eternal. And that word even, it's like, what does that mean? And eternal means like he has no beginning, he doesn't have an ending, and that is just a weird concept. I was kind of like, what? It's so hard to comprehend. Because here's the question somebody even asked me, and I've read it online, and people ask it all the time, like, you guys say that God made everything, but who made God? And if there was something that made God, what made that? And it's just this idea of everything has to have a beginning, and everything has to have an end. We know that. Everything has to have a beginning. Everything has to have an end. But the Bible claims that God doesn't have a beginning, and he doesn't have an end, that he's eternal. So what on earth is that about? So the Bible actually makes that claim right in the beginning. Genesis chapter 1, so Genesis, the word Genesis means beginning. So Genesis chapter 1, the very first words in the whole Bible are, in the beginning, God. Now, it's not, there was a beginning, and then there was God. It's in the beginning, God is making stuff. So he had to exist beforehand. So that's kind of a problem for us. How do we explain that? And I think the issue is this. It's hard for us to understand. I had a beginning. It was a long time ago. Longer than I'd like to admit. So we're not going to talk about that. But okay, I had a beginning, and there's a point where I'm going to have an end. And everything we know about has a beginning and an end. That is the way life works. Time is a thing. That's where we live. This is important. This is a thing. Time. So here's an illustration someone gave me that helped me just get a picture of what this looks like. Have you ever been in a parade? Like 4th of July or Memorial Day or whatever. Okay, whatever. I don't care what kind of parade, but been in a parade. You're like, do, here's my cool sign or my cool, I don't know, I've only been in a few. Okay, but when you're in a parade, you're like wandering with your part of the parade. You can only see the part of the parade that you're in. You can't see if you're in the beginning there, you can see the beginning, but you can't see the end. I mean, the parade could be like a mile long. You can't see the end. If you're in the end, you can't necessarily see the middle, and you for sure can't see the beginning. You're in the parade. You can only see the part of the parade that you are in. So, I mean, there's no concept of like, oh, I could be in the beginning of the parade and the end of the parade. You can't. You're only in whatever part of the parade you happen to be in. Does that make sense at all? Okay, hopefully. But if I was standing on a skyscraper at the edge of the city and overlooking the entire city, then what? Well, then I could see the whole parade. I could see the beginning of it, and the middle of it, and the end of it, all at the same time. But how is that possible? Well, it's because I'm not in the parade. I'm outside of the parade. And so the idea is this. Time to us, it just is. It has to be. Time always has been. But not if time is a thing that was made. So if God's making stuff and he goes, I'm going to make time. The idea of days and seasons, I'm going to make that. Well, if he made it, he's not in it. He's outside of it. So he's not controlled by time. Time doesn't even apply to him. Here's another example. What is this? In case you don't know, which would be weird, this is a smartphone, okay? And here's the idea. I don't know when you were born, okay? These were not quite super popular when I was born, but oh my goodness, even though this didn't exist when I was born, okay, I know that's super long time ago. I should stop talking about that. But I cannot imagine life without it. I don't know how people got anywhere without GPS, okay, or maps. I don't know. I don't even know. But there was a time when this didn't exist. Our generation cannot even imagine that. The next generation will be like, what does this mean? I don't know what this is. Why? Because there's not even phones that look like this anymore. They're going to be like, what's that? All they know is this. And so, what's weird, though, is the creator of this, he knew what life was like before this was in existence. He was outside of it. He didn't need it. And so that's the idea, is that the one who made time isn't bound by it. That's God. He knows what it is for this to not exist. We can't imagine it. We can't even picture a world without it, but God can. And so The idea is that when you are a human on this earth, you are in the parade, the dimension of time. But if you're God, you're the one who made it. So you are completely outside of it. And that is how he can be eternal. There's a verse in Psalms, and it's in Psalms 90, and it's verse 2, and it says this. It says, before the mountains were brought forth, or before you ever formed the earth and the world, even from everlasting, that means like forever and forever, to everlasting, you are God. So just remember, okay, if you're in the parade, you're in the parade. You can't see the beginning and the middle and the end all at the same time. But if you are outside of the parade, you can see it all. You're not stuck in it. You're not bound by it. And that is God. God made time, so he's outside of it, not bound by it, not controlled by it, not in it. He can see it all at the same time because that is who he is. I have no idea if that made sense. If it didn't, so sorry. Hopefully it did. But there's the idea. God is eternal.